The morning sun spilled across the city courthouse like a golden curtain as Judge Isaiah Carr stepped out of the building. His suit was sharp, his steps confident, and his face calm with the kind of authority earned from years of fairness. For most people, this was just another busy day. For Isaiah, it was a reminder of everything he worked for: justice, truth, and dignity. He walked toward his black sedan, parked just outside the sidewalk, flipping through a case file as he usually did. The neighborhood was quiet, except for faint traffic from the distance. But then, a loud honk sliced through the calm morning air. A patrol car sped toward him with unnecessary aggression, braking so hard the tires screeched. Startled, Isaiah took a step back. Two officers stepped out, their expressions sharp, irritated, and already judging him without a word spoken. The older one, Officer Grant, rested his hand on his holster, as if he was preparing for trouble that didn't exist. "You," he barked. "Step away from that vehicle." Isaiah blinked, calmly closing his case file. "Is there a problem, officer?" The younger cop, Officer Mills, barely in his late 20s, raised a flashlight, though it was broad daylight. "We got a call about a suspicious man trying to break into a luxury car. Matches your description." Isaiah inhaled slowly, the insult folding into his chest like cold metal. "This is my car," he said, voice steady. Grant smirked. "Sure it is, and I'm the mayor." People walking nearby slowed down, watching. Some whispered. Others pulled out their phones, sensing drama. Isaiah stayed composed, his hands visible, his tone controlled. He'd seen this behavior too many times. Suspicion fueled not by evidence but by skin. Grant stepped closer. "Show me ID." Isaiah reached calmly into his jacket to retrieve his wallet. But before he could even pull it out, Grant barked, "Hands where I can see them, now." The sudden shout froze Isaiah. A mother across the street gasped. A teenager started recording. The entire world, for a moment, felt like it was holding its breath. "P," Isaiah said softly, lifting his hands. "P." Mills circled around the car, inspecting it like Isaiah had no right to be anywhere near it. "Looks brand new. You sure it's yours?" "P." Isaiah leaned slightly forward, his voice firming. "I don't owe you explanations for owning what I worked for." "P." Grant's eyes narrowed, offended by the confidence. He stepped so close their faces were inches apart. "People like you always got something to hide." The words stung deeper than any accusation. Isaiah could handle hostility, but that line crossed something personal. He spoke calmly. "Officer, you're making a mistake." Grant scoffed loudly, waving his hand dismissively. "Save it. Hands behind your back." Grant grabbed his wrist roughly. Gasps erupted around the street. A few people yelled for the officer to stop. Isaiah didn't resist. He simply looked Grant in the eye with a patience so powerful, it unsettled everyone watching, including Mills. "You're arresting me for standing near my own car?" Isaiah asked. Grant smiled. The kind of smile that came from authority misused. "No, I'm arresting you because you didn't listen fast enough." Cuffs clicked around Isaiah's wrists. And as the officers shoved him toward the patrol car, a single thought passed through Isaiah's mind. Not fear, not anger, but disappointment. Because they had no idea who he truly was, but they were about to find out. The metal of the handcuffs pressed hard against Isaiah's wrists as the officers marched him toward the patrol car. Phones were recording from every angle now, a small crowd forming on the sidewalk. Some people whispered in disbelief. Others shook their heads, murmuring, "This doesn't look right." Isaiah kept his posture steady. Even with his hands restrained, he carried himself with the quiet dignity of someone who refused to be broken by humiliation. Grant opened the back door of the patrol car and shoved him slightly. Isaiah caught himself before stumbling, turning his head just enough to look at the officer. "You still have time to correct this," he said calmly. "I recommend you think." Grant's laugh cut him off sharply. "Oh, spare me the lectures. You're not in a courtroom anymore." Mills shifted awkwardly as he stood near the front of the car. His expression wasn't as hostile, more uncertain. His eyes flicked between Isaiah, the crowd, and his partner. Something in him recognized the wrongness of the situation, but fear, inexperience, and loyalty kept him silent. "Grant," he said quietly, "maybe we should just check." Grant snapped. "Check what?" He fits the description. He was touching the car, and he acted nervous. Isaiah tilted his head slightly. "I wasn't nervous. I was confused that officers who claimed to serve the public treated a citizen like a criminal without cause." Grant slammed the car door shut behind him. "Yeah? Well, you can explain that down at the station." Isaiah sat in the back seat, the cuffs uncomfortable, but his gaze still steady through the glass. Grant and Mills moved away from the car to talk, tension rising in their debate. The crowd murmured, louder. "That guy's right," a woman whispered. "He didn't do anything." "That officer is out of control," another man muttered. A teenager live streaming said, "This is gonna blow up online." Inside the car, Isaiah could still hear parts of the conversation outside. Mills whispered urgently, "Grant, something's off. He's too calm. And he wasn't breaking into anything. The keys were in his hand." Grant's jaw tightened. "We're not backing down now. If we release him, we look stupid." "So we arrest him to protect your ego?" Mills asked, voice low but shaking. Grant glared. "To protect the order of this community. People like him always try to play innocent." Isaiah closed his eyes briefly. People like him. Those words stung not because they were new, but because they were predictable, and yet he refused to respond with hate. He had faced injustice before. He had overcome far worse. This moment would not define him. It would define the officers who abused their authority. At that moment, a sleek, black SUV pulled up near the scene. A tall man in a tailored charcoal suit stepped out. Carrying a stack of files, he looked urgent and annoyed. It was Deputy District Attorney Marcus Hale, one of Isaiah's close professional colleagues. He was mid-sentence on a phone call when he froze, staring at the scene unfolding in front of him. What the hell?" His eyes locked on Isaiah behind the patrol car window. His tone dropped instantly. "Judge Carr? Judge, what happened?" The crowd turned, phones aimed at the new arrival. Grant stiffened. Mills looked like his heart dropped to the floor. Marcus walked straight toward the officers, shutting off his phone mid-call. "Untie him, now." Grant straightened, defensively. "Sir, this man." "That man," Marcus cut him sharply, "is Judge Isaiah Carr, a federal-appointed judge, one of the highest-ranking legal officials in this state." Silence fell like a hammer. Grant's face drained of color. Mills looked absolutely stunned. "And unless you want your badges, careers, and pensions destroyed within the next hour," Marcus continued, voice icy and controlled, "you will remove those cuffs immediately." The crowd gasped. The officers froze. Isaiah watched the panic unfold from behind the window. Calmly, he waited, letting the truth settle like a storm finally hitting land. Grant swallowed hard, stepping toward the door with trembling hands. And for the first time that morning, he didn't look fearless. He looked terrified. Grant fumbled with the car door handle, his hands shaking so badly he had to try twice. The same officer who shoved Isaiah minutes earlier was now struggling to unlock him without dropping the key. Behind him, Mills stood frozen, eyes wide, as if reality had suddenly cracked open beneath his feet. When the cuffs finally clicked open, Isaiah stepped out of the patrol car with calm, measured movements. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lash out. He simply stood tall, and somehow that made Grant shrink even more. Marcus Hale stepped forward, his tone controlled, but razor-sharp. "Judge Carr, are you hurt?" "No," Isaiah replied, brushing off his sleeves. "Just disappointed." Those words hit harder than anger ever could. Mills bowed his head, ashamed. Grant swallowed, still trying to salvage the little power he believed he had left. "Judge Carr," Grant stammered. We acted based on a call. We didn't know." Isaiah raised a hand slightly, stopping him. "The problem isn't that you didn't know who I was," he said calmly. "The problem is that you didn't care who I was. You assumed I didn't belong. And that assumption drove every action that followed." Grant opened his mouth to argue, but the crowd surrounding them wasn't on his side anymore. Phones aimed at him, people whispering, disapproval hanging heavy in the air. Isaiah looked around at the witnesses, then back at the officers. "This isn't the first time you've done something like this, is it?" Grant stiffened. Mills hesitated, then spoke softly. "No, sir." Grant shot him a harsh glare, but Mills didn't stop. "This isn't new," the younger officer muttered, voice cracking. He does this a lot. Anyone he thinks doesn't fit, he stops them. Sometimes detains them. Sometimes worse." A ripple went through the crowd. Anger, shock, affirmation. Grant clenched his fists. "Mills, enough." But Mills wasn't done. "I should have said something sooner," he said quietly. "I'm tired of watching it happen. Today, it almost ruined everything." Grant lunged forward like he wanted to grab him. But Marcus stepped between them instantly. "Touch him," Marcus warned. "And I'll have you in handcuffs next." Grant froze. The power dynamic had flipped so fast, it left the entire street in stunned silence. Isaiah studied Mills. "You spoke up. That matters," he said. "But silence allowed this behavior to grow. You understand that, don't you?" Mills nodded, guilt heavy on his face. "Yes, sir." Isaiah sighed, a soft exhale that carried years of experience. "Standing against wrongdoing is the first step. Now you must follow through." Marcus walked over to the patrol car's dashboard camera and yanked out the memory card. "Evidence secured," he announced. "This goes straight to internal affairs." The crowd murmured, excitement rising. Grant's face crumpled. "Sir, please, if this gets reported, they'll—" Isaiah cut him off sharply. "If you were worried about consequences, you should have considered them before abusing your position." Grant stood there, breathing heavily, panic crawling through his eyes. Then the sound of another vehicle approaching broke the tension. A black sedan pulled up. Out stepped Chief Hernandez, the precinct chief. A woman in her 50s with a stern gaze and zero tolerance for misconduct. She took one look at the scene and marched forward. "What in the world is happening here?" she demanded. Marcus gestured toward Isaiah. "Your officers unlawfully detained Judge Carr." The chief's jaw tightened so hard the muscles twitched. "Judge Carr, I am so deeply sorry." Isaiah nodded politely. "Chief." She spun toward Grant and Mills. "Explain." Grant tried, stuttered, failed. Mills spoke instead. "He stopped the judge without cause," Mills said. "Searched him, cuffed him, ignored protocol." The chief's voice dropped an octave. "And you participated." Mills swallowed. I hesitated, ma'am. But yes." She turned to Isaiah. "Judge Carr, I will personally handle this. Both officers will be removed from duty immediately pending investigation. And if you file charges, I will support them fully." The crowd cheered. Phones captured every second. Isaiah looked at both officers, not with hatred, but with a calm, unyielding truth. Accountability matters, he said. Use this moment to understand why. He turned to walk away, Marcus following beside him. The crowd parted for him, not out of fear, but out of respect. But just as Isaiah reached his car, Grant snapped. "You think this is over?" Grant shouted. His voice shook, not with anger, but with desperation. But Isaiah paused. He turned back slowly, his expression unreadable. "I didn't start anything," Isaiah said softly. "You did." And the quiet strength in that answer silenced the entire street. Grant's last shred of arrogance shattered. He looked around, no allies, no authority, no power left to cling to. The chief motioned for another patrol car, and both officers were escorted inside, this time on the other side of the handcuffs. Isaiah exhaled, closing his eyes briefly. The ordeal was over, at least this part of it. But something in Grant's last words wouldn't leave his mind. "You don't know what you just started." There was more to this story, more beneath the surface. Something darker. Something he couldn't yet see. But he would. And when he did, the truth would shake the entire precinct. The day should have ended with relief. Isaiah should have driven home, closed the blinds, taken off his tie, and left the morning's chaos behind him. But as he sat in his car, fingers resting lightly on the steering wheel, something gnawed at him, the echo of Grant's words. "You don't know what you just started." That wasn't a threat made out of bruised ego. It sounded like fear, like someone afraid that Isaiah might uncover something bigger than a wrongful detention. Marcus opened the passenger door and leaned in. "You okay?" Isaiah nodded once. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." Isaiah didn't respond. Marcus exhaled and shut the door fully, sliding into the seat. Grant's record. "I've heard stories, but I didn't know it was this bad." "It wasn't just him," Isaiah said quietly. "Mills admitted it openly." "I've heard stories." "That means there's a culture allowing this." Marcus tapped the memory card in his hand. "Whatever they've been doing, this is going to bury it." Isaiah looked at him. "Unless what they're hiding is worse." Marcus frowned. "What are you thinking?" Isaiah rested his hands on the steering wheel. Grant seemed more afraid than angry. "That tells me today wasn't just about me. This was about protecting something rotten." Marcus's expression darkened. "Rotten how? Corruption? Cover-ups? Extortion? All possible." Isaiah's voice was steady, but an undercurrent of worry lingered. "But we're missing something." Before Marcus could respond, Isaiah's phone vibrated. A message. Unknown number. "Judge Carr, you are in danger. Meet me behind Eastwood Storage, Unit 117. Come alone." Marcus saw the look on Isaiah's face. "What is it?" Isaiah handed him the phone. Marcus's eyes widened. This is either a setup or someone terrified." "It came 10 minutes after the arrest," Isaiah said. "Someone watching." Marcus shook his head. "You're not going alone." "I have to," Isaiah said. "If it's real, they won't come near me with security around." Marcus clenched his jaw. "At least let me follow from a distance." Isaiah considered it. "Fine, but stay far. If anything feels off, you leave." Marcus nodded reluctantly. "Deal." The sun slipped toward the horizon as Isaiah drove across town, the world washed in red-orange light that stretched across rooftops and long shadows. Eastwood Storage sat near the industrial district, rows of metal units, chain-link fences and flickering streetlights. Empty. Quiet. Too quiet. Isaiah parked near the back, where unit numbers became smaller and the asphalt cracked beneath the tires. Marcus's car appeared briefly in the distance. Before parking, 2 blocks away. Isaiah stepped out. A gust of cold wind carried dust across the pavement. His footsteps echoed as he approached Unit 117. The door was half open, just enough to reveal darkness inside. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. He pushed the door wider and stepped in, senses sharp, breath controlled. The storage unit smelled like old metal and damp concrete. Then, a click. A faint light flickered on in the corner. A figure sat on an overturned crate, hands trembling, hood pulled low. A young woman. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Judge Carr, thank God you came." Isaiah raised his hands slightly. "Who are you?" She lowered her hood, revealing tired eyes and a bruise along her jawline. "My name is Emma Turner," she whispered. "I was Officer Mills's partner during training. I quit months ago." Isaiah stepped closer, cautiously. "Why?" "Because I saw what you saw today, and worse." Her voice shook. The discrimination, the harassment, the way they use their position to target people for personal gain. But that's not even the worst part. Isaiah's heart tightened. "What is?" Emma swallowed hard, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. "They're part of something bigger. A group inside the precinct. They call it the Watchmen." Isaiah frowned. "What do they do?" Emma's hands trembled violently. "They manipulate cases, target certain people, cover up evidence, intimidate witnesses, and if someone refuses to play along," she paused, breathing uneven, "they destroy them." Isaiah's voice lowered. "Are you saying Grant is part of this?" Emma nodded. "And so are at least 6 others at the precinct." Isaiah processed this slowly. He had suspected corruption, but not an organized group with influence and reach. Emma continued, voice cracking. "I tried to report it. They threatened me. They said if I spoke again, I'd disappear." Mills tried to get out too, but he stayed because he was afraid. Isaiah's pulse quickened. "What do they want with me?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You embarrassed Grant today," she whispered. "Publicly, in front of the chief, in front of witnesses. They think you're going to expose them." "I am," Isaiah said calmly. "That's the problem," Emma whispered. "They're planning something. Tonight." Isaiah stiffened. "What?" Emma looked him straight in the eyes. "They're coming after you." Before Isaiah could respond, a sudden noise outside sliced through the quiet. Car doors, heavy footsteps, multiple voices. Emma turned pale. "They found me." Isaiah stepped toward the door, checking the angle. Shadows moved outside. At least 3 people, maybe more. Emma grabbed his sleeve. "Judge Carr, they're not here to arrest you." Her voice broke into a whisper of terror. "They're here to make sure you don't speak again." And then, someone slammed their fist against the metal door. "Open it!" A cold voice growled. Isaiah's eyes hardened. This wasn't about a bad arrest anymore. This was war. The pounding on the metal door rattled the entire storage unit. Dust drifted down from the ceiling as the force of each hit echoed like thunder trapped in a steel cage. Emma froze, her breath catching in her throat, eyes wide with terror. Isaiah stepped in front of her, instinctively, his body blocking her from the door as another fist slammed against it, harder this time. "Open it!" The voice outside was sharp, rigid, too controlled to be random rage. This was calculated. This was planned. Isaiah lowered his voice. "Is there another exit?" Emma shook her head rapidly. "And no, only the main door. I didn't think they'd find me so fast." "You said there 3?" Isaiah asked. Emma nodded. "Maybe 4. Grant and 2 more I recognized earlier, when I was followed." Isaiah's pulse steadied, not with fear, but with something sharper. The instinct of a man who had spent years making high-level decisions under pressure. A man who understood danger and didn't crumble under it. He scanned the room. Metal crates, old tarps, a rusty toolbox. Not much to defend themselves, but the shadows worked in their favor. "Stay behind me," he instructed. Emma swallowed. "Judge Carr, if they get you, it's over." Isaiah turned his head slightly, eyes meeting hers. "Then they won't get me." Another slam rattled the door, the metal bending inward slightly. "Last chance," one of the voices growled. "Open the door, Carr." A beat of silence. Another. Then Isaiah spoke clearly, loud enough for them to hear. "I would advise you to leave before you make another irreversible mistake." A quick burst of mocking laughter erupted outside. "Listen to this guy," someone sneered. "Still acting like he's in control." Another voice spoke familiar and venomous. "Grant, you think a little courtroom reputation scares us? Judge or not, you crossed the wrong people today." Emma shuddered. "He's with them. I knew it." Isaiah's jaw tightened. Grant was afraid earlier. That fear pushed him here. A metallic grinding sound tore through the air. They were forcing the door upwards. Slowly, inch by inch, the bottom of the unit began to lift, revealing a pair of heavy boots. Isaiah pulled Emma deeper into the shadows between crates. The door groaned higher. More boots visible. 3 silhouettes. One holding a flashlight. Another gripping a metal pipe. Grant holding something small and black. A taser. The door finally jerked upward, creating a gap large enough for them to slip under. Grant ducked inside first, flashlight sweeping across the pitch-black unit. "Emma Turner," Grant shouted. "Come out. You're making this worse than it needs to be." Emma held her breath, pressing herself against the cold wall. Grant smirked. "You thought hiding behind a judge would protect you? You thought he was untouchable?" His beam of light hovered dangerously close. "But tonight," Grant continued, voice chillingly steady, "we fix what you ruined." The second man joined him. The third stayed near the entrance as lookout. Isaiah's eyes narrowed, adjusting to the pattern of their movements. He didn't know violence, but he knew psychology. He knew timing. He knew how to dismantle a threat without raising a hand. Grant moved deeper into the unit. The second man followed, distracted by the crates. The lookout remained framed in the doorway. Isaiah whispered to Emma, "Stay down." He waited, listened, calculated. Grant's flashlight beam passed over the crates, then swung toward the back wall. "There," he shouted. But before they could approach, Isaiah stepped from the shadows. Grant froze. "You!" Isaiah grabbed the flashlight from Grant's hand, flipping it upward so the beam hit the ceiling. The sudden shift blinded the second man, who stumbled back. Grant lunged forward with the taser. Isaiah stepped sideways, letting Grant's momentum carry him forward. The taser smacked into the crate, sparks flying. Grant cursed, spinning around. "Hold him!" The second man rushed toward Isaiah, swinging the metal pipe wildly. Isaiah ducked, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting just enough to make him drop the weapon. The pipe clattered across the floor. The lookout panicked and ran toward them, but Emma, trembling yet determined, kicked the pipe, sending it rolling directly into the lookout's path. He tripped violently, crashing onto the concrete. Isaiah turned to Grant. Grant's breathing was ragged. Sweat dripped down his temples. Fear flickered behind his rage. "You don't get it," Grant spat. "It's not just me. It never was. You're up against something bigger than a badge." Isaiah took a step closer. Then why are you the one standing here alone? Grant flinched. You are disposable to them, Isaiah said quietly. Just another enforcer. They sent you because you were angry enough, careless enough, and desperate enough. Grant's eyes widened. Isaiah had hit the truth. You were never part of their circle, Isaiah continued. You were their shield. Grant's expression cracked. Shut up. They used you, Isaiah said calmly, and now they've abandoned you. Grant shook his head violently, denial taking over. You don't know anything. Isaiah stepped forward. Grant stepped back. His heel caught the edge of a crate. He stumbled, and the taser fell from his hand. Isaiah kicked it away. The three attackers were disarmed, breathing hard, defeated. Emma finally stood, voice shaking but firm. It's over, Grant. Isaiah stared at him. You can lie to yourself, or you can help us stop this corruption. There won't be another chance. Grant stared at Isaiah, torn between fear, ego, and the truth creeping into his mind. Outside, the faint sound of approaching sirens echoed through the night. Someone, maybe a neighbor, maybe Marcus, had called for help. Grant swallowed hard. His voice cracked. What have I done? Isaiah didn't answer. He didn't need to. Grant already knew. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a fight larger than all of them. The sirens grew louder, bouncing off the storage unit walls with a rising urgency that felt like pressure building in the air. Grant stood frozen, his face pale, his breath ragged. The two other men sat slumped against the wall, defeated, wounded, and shaken out of whatever false power they thought they had. Isaiah didn't move. He watched Grant carefully, not with hatred, but with a calm intensity that made Grant's shoulders sink even lower. Emma stepped beside Isaiah, still trembling but no longer hiding. They'll arrest them, she whispered. That should stop this, right? Isaiah didn't answer, because deep inside, he knew the truth. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The Watchmen weren't the kind of people who stopped when a few foot soldiers fell. No, groups like theirs had layers, ranks, shadows behind shadows. And if Grant and these two were the ones doing the dirty work, someone above them had given the orders. Someone who hadn't shown their face yet. The storage door finally slid fully upward as the police arrived. Chief Hernandez strode inside, flanked by two officers with their weapons drawn. Standard procedure for a call involving multiple suspects. Her eyes widened when she saw Isaiah, then tightened when she saw who else was in the unit. Grant, she snapped. What in the world have you done now? Grant didn't look up. He stared at the floor, guilt crushing him like weight on his chest. The chief's gaze landed on the pipe, the taser, the bruises, the chaos. Put them in cuffs, she ordered sharply. The officers moved quickly. The two accomplices didn't resist, neither did Grant. As they pulled his arms behind him, Grant finally broke his silence. He's right, Grant whispered hoarsely. We're just the bottom feeders. The real ones. The ones giving orders. You'll never touch them. Chief Hernandez glared. Save it. You're done. But Isaiah stepped forward. No. Let him speak. The chief hesitated. Judge Carr. Let him speak, Isaiah repeated. His voice, calm, but absolute. Grant lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. You think this is about me, Mills? A few bad cops? His voice cracked. No, this goes higher, much higher. Emma braced herself, knowing what was coming. Grant swallowed as if the truth itself was painful. The Watchmen. They have people in internal affairs, dispatch, even the city prosecutor's office. He pointed a trembling finger at Isaiah. And you? You embarrassed them today. They don't forgive that. Isaiah absorbed his words, mind racing. The chief's face darkened. You expect me to believe that? Grant let out a humorless laugh. Believe whatever you want. But someone told us to handle Judge Carr quietly. Someone who knew internal affairs would bury the complaint if we kept things clean. Someone powerful enough to protect us. He looked at Isaiah. That's why they told us not to use a gun. Too messy. A taser leaves fewer questions. Emma's breath hitched. Isaiah's jaw tightened. The chief stiffened. Who gave you the order? Grant looked like he wanted to answer. But then his eyes flicked to the officers beside him. The others watching. Emma, Isaiah, the chief. Fear choked him. I can't, he muttered. If I speak, I'm dead. Isaiah stepped closer. Grant, he said quietly. You already crossed the line. The Watchmen won't forgive you for getting caught. They won't forgive you for failing. You're already done in their eyes. Grant trembled, teeth chattering despite the warm night air. You have one chance left, Isaiah said, voice steady. The truth. It's the only thing that can save you now. Seconds seemed to stretch into minutes. Then Grant finally whispered. The one who gave the order. The one running things. He took a long, shaking breath. It's someone inside your own courtroom. Isaiah froze. Emma gasped. Chief Hernandez went rigid. My courtroom? Isaiah said slowly. Who? Grant opened his mouth. But before a single word escaped, a sharp crack blasted through the air. A bullet from outside. The lights in the storage unit flickered. Everyone ducked instinctively. Officers drew weapons, shouting commands. Emma screamed as Isaiah shielded her with his body. Another shot rang out. The two officers dragged Grant and the others down behind the crates to protect them, even as chaos erupted inside and outside the unit. Chief Hernandez yelled orders, cover the entrances, find the shooter. Isaiah pulled Emma behind a steel shelf. His heart pounded, but his mind stayed razor sharp. A sniper. Deliberate, precise, professional. Not some thug. Not some angry officer. Someone who wanted to silence Grant permanently. Isaiah peered through the gap in the crates toward the open doorway. The moonlight flickered against a distant rooftop, a silhouette, a rifle, a laser sight sweeping slowly. Isaiah whispered, "Get down." A third shot cracked. Sparks flew from the metal frame inches from his shoulder. Emma's breathing turned frantic. They're trying to kill him. They're trying to kill Grant. Isaiah grabbed her wrist firmly, but gently. Stay with me. Don't move. Officers crawled to reposition themselves, trying to locate the shooter. Grant curled into himself, shaking uncontrollably. See, I told you they'd kill me. You don't understand. Nobody gets out. Isaiah's voice sharpened. Grant, look at me. Grant hesitated, panting. You do get out, Isaiah said, but not by hiding, not by obeying, by exposing them. Grant shook his head violently. You don't know what they are. Isaiah leaned closer. Then show me. Grant looked up and whispered the name. A name Isaiah knew. A name he trusted. A name he had worked beside for years. No one would ever suspect. Isaiah's face drained of color. Chief Hernandez snapped. Who is it? Isaiah answered with disbelief and dread. The district attorney. Everyone froze. Emma covered her mouth. Officers exchanged horrified looks. Grant closed his eyes, defeated. The truth had finally surfaced. But with the shooter still out there, none of them were safe. The district attorney. Isaiah felt his chest tighten. The DA wasn't just a colleague. He was a man Isaiah had worked beside for years. A man trusted with the highest legal power in the state. The man sworn to protect justice, not bury it. Emma whispered, It can't be him, it can't. But Grant nodded shakily. He runs everything. The Watchmen, the threats, the cover-ups. We did what he wanted. Not because we wanted to. Because he controlled every outcome. Before anyone could even respond, another shot cracked through the night. This one hit the concrete floor, sending shards flying. "Everyone down," Chief Hernandez shouted. Officers dove behind crates, weapons drawn. The shooter's laser danced across the storage unit, searching for a clear kill. Isaiah grabbed Emma and pulled her fully behind the steel shelving. "Stay low. Don't move." Grant trembled violently. "He's here to kill me, and anyone who heard me talk." "Grant," Isaiah hissed, "look at me." Grant forced himself to meet Isaiah's eyes. Broken, terrified, but alive. "You survived this long," Isaiah said, voice low and steady. "You keep surviving by helping us take him down. Understand?" Grant swallowed hard. He nodded. Outside, squad cars screeched as backup arrived. The shooter realized he was losing time. The laser sight froze on Grant's shoulder. Chief Hernandez fired a warning shot. "Drop the weapon. Hands up now." Silence. Then footsteps. Fast. Running across the rooftop. "They're escaping," an officer shouted. But Isaiah's mind wasn't on the shooter anymore. The DA. The man at the center of everything. The face of justice hiding a rot no one suspected. He turned to the chief. "We need to move now, before the DA covers his tracks." The chief nodded sharply. "I'll dispatch a team to secure the precinct and lock down his office." But Isaiah shook his head. "He'll anticipate that. He'll wipe everything before they arrive." Emma stepped forward. "Then what do we do?" Isaiah's voice was steady as stone. "We go to him, directly." The chief blinked. "Judge Carr." "We don't confront him," Isaiah clarified. "We expose him." Grant hesitated. "He'll destroy me." Isaiah looked at him with a depth Grant didn't expect. "No, he won't. Not tonight." The convoy sped through the city. 2 police SUVs, Isaiah's black sedan, and Chief Hernandez's unmarked car. The sirens were off. This wasn't an arrest. This was a rescue. A truth retrieval mission. A race against a man who controlled entire legal systems. They reached the DA's private office building, a tall glass tower gleaming under moonlight. Too perfect. Too clean. Too full of secrets. As they entered the lobby, the night guard looked startled. "Chief, Judge Carr, I wasn't told." Chief Hernandez flashed her badge. "We're not here on schedule." The guard swallowed. "The DA isn't here. He left an hour ago." Isaiah felt something shift in his chest. "Where did he go?" The guard hesitated. "The private elevator." He went down to the secure archives. A sinking feeling washed over them. He was destroying evidence. They sprinted toward the elevator. The chief swiped her card. Denied. She tried universal override. Denied again. Isaiah stepped forward. "Stand back." He typed a sequence into the keypad. A long one. A judge's override code few people knew existed. A beep. Green light. Doors opened. The elevator descended into the belly of the building, a floor beneath ground level. Cold, dim, labyrinth-like. Paper shredders hummed. A door at the end of the hall glowed orange from inside, the shape of a man moving frantically within. The DA. Chief Hernandez raised her weapon. "Stay behind me." Isaiah didn't move back. They burst into the room. The DA spun around, holding files dripping from a shredder, sweat on his brow, eyes wide with the panic of a trapped animal. "Isaiah," he gasped, "you shouldn't be here." Isaiah stepped into the light. "You're destroying evidence." The DA dropped the papers. "You don't understand." Isaiah's voice was calm. "Then explain." Heavy breaths, frantic eyes, years of secrets trembling inside him. "The Watchmen, they're everywhere," the DA whispered. "If I refuse them, I die." If I expose them, I die. You don't know what they'll do. Isaiah stepped closer. And you think I'm afraid? The DA stared at him. You should be. They'll come for you next. Isaiah's voice dropped to a low, cold whisper. They already did. Silence. Then Grant entered, escorted by 2 officers. His face bruised, his posture weak, but his voice firm. It's over, Grant said. I told them everything. The DA's expression shattered. Grant, you used me, Grant said, shaking. I thought you cared. I thought you were cleaning up the streets. Turns out, you were just building your own army. The chief moved between them. District Attorney Reed, you are under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction, corruption, and attempted murder. The DA's eyes darted around, no escape left, and for the first time, he looked small. Isaiah approached him, not with vengeance, but with the heavy weight of justice. This city deserved better, he said quietly. And now, it will get it. The officers cuffed the DA. Grant watched, tears welling, his first step to redemption carried by the man he tried to destroy. Emma exhaled deeply, her hands finally unclenching. Isaiah stepped into the center of the room, letting the hum of the shredders fade into silence. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't revenge. It was truth, brought into the light by those brave enough to carry it. And tonight, Isaiah had carried it straight through fire. Thank you for watching this powerful story. If it touched you or made you think, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these cinematic stories reach more people. Join us again for another emotional journey and another powerful lesson.